A rare interview with American television, Mohammed bin Salman discusses what seemed unlikely just a few years ago: normal diplomatic relations with Israel.
For us, the Palestinian issue is very important. We need to solve that part, and we have a good negotiations continue. Till now, we gotta see where it will go.
So you think, if you were to characterize it, are you close?
Every day we get closer.
But when asked what he would do if Iran obtained a nuclear weapon, he said Saudi Arabia would do the same.
If they get one, we have to get one, for security reasons, for balancing power in the Middle East, but we don't want to see that.
As the interview went to air, Benjamin Netanyahu sat down with Joe Biden at a hotel in New York. Outside, greeted by protesters. Inside, greeted by Joe Biden.
I think that under your leadership, Mr. President, we can forge a historic peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And I think such a peace would go a long way, first, to advance the end of the Arab-Israeli conflict, achieve reconciliation between the Islamic world and the Jewish state, and advance a genuine peace between Israel and the Palestinians.
After being snubbed for months, Netanyahu got what he's wanted from Biden: an invite to the White House. The U.S. has expressed concern over Israel's creeping annexation of the occupied West Bank, and a controversial judicial overhaul plan critics say would weaken the Supreme Court.
We're going to discuss some of the hard issues, and that is upholding democratic values that lie at the heart of our partnership, including checks and balances in our systems, and preserving a path to a negotiated two-state solution.
If ties between Israel and Saudi Arabia are normalized, it would be another seismic shift in the ever-changing alliances of the Middle East. Behdad, Mahichi, Al Jazeera.
Mahjoub Zuwairi is Professor of Contemporary Middle East Politics at Qatar University and joins us here on the set. So if we could start by talking about the indications of a developing shock. I'm trying to put this diplomatically, between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Are we seeing a change, Dr. Mahjoub, or are we simply seeing contacts that have been going on for years now coming more to light?
I think, you know, the relations, or what's so-called the peace between Arab and Israel, since started in Madrid conference in 1993. It was a process moving around since that year. And from time to time, political developments may push the process or back, or sometimes push it ahead. Now, after what we saw in the last...
But in those days, sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Mahjoub, but the talk, at least in the open, was this is what the Arabs can offer Israel in return for Israel ending the occupation. This is now, this is a different... completely different process, isn't it? I mean, we've seen Arab countries, you know, like UAE, establish relations with Israel.
We have two, to me, there are two kinds of peace with Israel. One is a normalization without a price. That's what happened in Abraham Accord. And there is another countries who are basically talk about peace with Israel, and Israel has to pay something, and maybe someone can look at Jordan, someone can look at you know, communication previously between Qatar and Israel, where basically Palestinians at the middle of the talk. You know, you have to improve the Palestinians' life, you have to open, you know, the bridges, you have to do something. And now we are hearing actually from Mohammed bin Salman the same. He was saying, you know, there is no peace with Israel unless they ease, quote unquote, on Palestinians. So now we see actually three countries. They use the same terminology nearly, that no peace with Israel, no normalization, unless Israel has to pay back something. And that itself may be pushing, first of all, Israel, and pushing the Americans to pressure Israel more, that you cannot do everything and you cannot pay without paying the price or giving something in return.
All right. Is that price changing, though? Before it was end the occupation, independent Palestinian state, East Jerusalem was its capital, very clear demands on actually it was called the Saudi Initiative.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about easing and improving and...
Actually, you know, we saw that Israel was in return of everything of normalization of process or getting close to Israel, actually they become more radical in their internal domestic politics. You look at what happened, and Netanyahu is ruling Israel nearly for more than 1 decade, or beyond actually 1 decade, and now he's you know, the radical opinion, the radical parties are actually controlling Israel, and itself that's a bad indicator to anyone want to make peace with Israel, because you know, peace should bring more, I would say, rational politicians, more people who can talk, debate, mediate. But in return, Israel has become more radical. I'm not sure the Arab party, the Arab countries, is considering the fact that this may complicate the process itself and may basically end without any kind prize in hand.
Right. On another issue, Saudi Arabia, can it really become a nuclear power? I'm sure you heard the statement there. If they go nuclear, we will too.
Look, to me, I read, you know, the discussion about the nuclear issue, Saudi Arabia started years ago. It started with negotiation with China, and American newspapers did report about that. And recently it started basically at the time where there's talk about normalization with Israel, saying that Saudis asking Americans that you have to help us in doing such thing, and then we can think about normalization with Israel.
But Mohammed Salman is talking about a nuclear bomb now, right? We're not just talking about nuclear power plants.
Yeah, because he says, you know, look, what Israel, you couldn't control Israel, you couldn't control Iran, and other countries, they have the right to do so. So it's the failure of international community, the failure of superpower like the United States of controlling that issue in the last 20, 30 years. So I think he's benefiting, or he tried to capitalize on the current situation by saying, look, you couldn't control the others, I want to have the same.
All right, Mahjoub Zawairi, thank you so much for your analysis.
My pleasure, Sam.